The series begins with a very happy family celebrating the first birthday of their rare set of quadruplets, 3 boys and 1 girl, named Rain, Dion, Yuri, and Laura. The birth of such quadruplets is an extremely rare occurrence, with a probability of 1 in a million, making their arrival a joyous occasion for everyone. Their birthday is celebrated with happiness and excitement, and as the years pass, the siblings grow up with a deep bond of love for one another. They spend all their time together, playing, studying, and supporting each other in everything. Their father is always eager to document every moment between them, capturing memories to cherish for a lifetime. On their 8th birthday, a small argument breaks out among them over a gift meant for Laura. They all pull at the gift until their parents step in to resolve the situation. Their mother gently reminds them that they should never fight or hold grudges against each other, as their bond is the most important thing that must never be broken. Afterward, they continue celebrating as if nothing had happened. Each sibling makes a birthday wish. Rain, the eldest, wishes to become the president of South Korea one day so he can improve the country and fulfill their dreams. Dion wishes to conquer the world on his own. Yuri dreams of having a bed all to himself. And Laura, in a touching gesture, dedicates her wish to their mother, acknowledging the hardship she endured giving birth to them 8 years ago. Their mother is deeply moved and wishes for her children to grow up happy and safe. Years pass, and the quadruplets grow up in a loving home with caring parents. One morning, Rain goes for a run as part of his daily routine. On his way back, he notices a strange girl standing in front of their apartment building, unloading her belongings from a moving truck. The building's doorman informs him that she is a high school student who has just moved into an apartment by herself. Rain learns that she is living in the apartment right next to his. The doorman tries to introduce her to Rain, mentioning that he is a hard-working and brilliant student who could help her with her studies. However, she ignores the introduction and heads inside. Curious, Rain follows her into the elevator and offers to help carry her things, but she declines, saying she doesn't like others touching her belongings. When they reach their apartments, Rain casually tells her that since they are now neighbors, she shouldn't hesitate to ask for any without a word. Rain returns to his own apartment and tells his family about the new girl who just moved in next door, mentioning how beautiful and striking she is. Later that day, Dion realizes he is late for his training, so he rushes out without having breakfast open. He stops and watches as she ties her hair and gets ready. Mesmerized by her beauty, he is completely captivated until she suddenly notices him. Embarrassed, he quickly steps back, accidentally knocking over a picture frame that was leaning against the door, breaking it. The girl comes out, visibly annoyed. Dion quickly promises to replace it and pay for the damage, but she refuses, saying she was planning to throw it away anyway. He offers to clean up the broken glass and dispose of it, but she refuses again. Frustrated, he leaves. At that moment, the girl's mother arrives at the apartment building and asks the doorman to let her up. It is revealed that the girl's name is Koi. As her mother spots her coming down the stairs, she calls out to her, but he wants to say something to Koi, but she merely glances at him silently and walks away. Her mother notices the exchange and asks Koi about him, but Koi dismissively says she doesn't know him personally, only that he is her neighbor. Koi and her mother enter the apartment together. When her mother asks how she's settling in, Koi coldly remarks that her presence there is unnecessary. Despite this, her mother stays for a bit while Koi gets ready for school. Koi then asks if she will be leaving with her, but her mother reveals that she is in the final months of pregnancy and needs to rest. Koi leaves for school, arriving at her new classroom, where the teacher introduces her to the class. It turns out that Rain and his siblings, Dion and Yuri, are in the same class as her. They are excited to see that she will be studying with them, hoping that this will bring them closer to her over time. After class, the teacher approaches Rain and asks him to help Koi get familiar with the school and its different areas, since she's new and doesn't know her way around. During the break, Rain walks with Koi and starts introducing her to the school facilities, but she quickly cuts him off, saying she never asked for his help. She then walks away, leaving him behind. After the break, Koi returns to the classroom and finds only Yuri inside. She asks him where the other students are, but he doesn't respond. Just then, a girl named Yuna enters the room and informs Koi that their classmates are in a music lesson. She then takes Koi outside and shares that Yuri hasn't spoken in an entire year due to a recent traumatic experience. Koi sympathizes with him. Meanwhile, in the music class, Yuri dozes off and dreams of a girl jumping off a bridge into a river. Later, after class, Doyen outside and tells her that what she did was wrong, but she snaps at him, accusing him of always pretending to be righteous. She then leaves and heads home. Upon arriving at her building, Koi finds her stepfather waiting for her outside. He scolds her for the distress she is causing her mother. Ignoring him, she watches as her mother comes downstairs, ready to leave with him. They invite Koi to join them for lunch, but she refuses and firmly asks her mother to stop visiting her. She then walks past them and enters the building. Inside, he exits at his floor, but Koi continues up to the rooftop. Standing by the railing, Yuri absent-mindedly gazes at the sky and is suddenly struck with shock. He sees the same girl from his dreams standing on the bridge. Realizing it might be a sign, he rushes up to the rooftop as fast as he can. Meanwhile, Koi reaches the rooftop and is flooded with painful childhood memories. She recalls the moment her father decided to leave her. He had promised to return, but her mother scolded him, telling him not to give false hope when he had already made up his mind to abandon her. In the end, her father left without knowing what to say, while Koi cried and called out for him, hoping he would come back, but he never did. It becomes clear that Koi went to the rooftop intending to end her life, seeking an escape from the pain she carries. However, just as she is about to take action, Yuri dismisses him, saying it's none of his business, but he firmly tells her that she doesn't have the right to decide her fate alone, because there are people who would worry about her and grieve her loss. Koi, filled with despair, tells him that no one cares about her. Yuri, moved by her pain, promises that from now on, he will always be there for her and will always worry about her. He then asks her to promise she will never think about doing such a thing again. At home, Yuri's brothers continue talking about Koi, and their mother finds it strange that she lives alone at such a young age. Meanwhile, Yuri keeps his secret from his family, pretending he is still mute. The next morning, Rain stumbles upon the framed picture that Koi had thrown, which is why she transferred in her final year. Angered by their words, Rain follows her and, hesitating at first, finally asks if the burger restaurant owner is her father. She looks at him with deep emotion and, after a pause, confirms that he is. She then asks how he figured it out. Rain explains that he recognized him from the discarded photo. Koi regrets not disposing of the picture more carefully to keep her secret hidden. She then makes Rain promise not to tell anyone about her father in exchange for her silence about the fact that he sneaks out at night. They both agree to keep each other's secrets. After school, as Koi walks home, she notices Yuri following her. She stops and directly asks him why he is trailing her. He admits that he is worried about her, but she brushes him off, telling him to stop spying on her because it bothers her. She also tells him that he could never understand what she's going through. He grew up in a loving family, surrounded by warmth and peace, while she has never known such a life. With that, she walks away, leaving Yuri behind. From a distance, Doyen and Rain witness their interaction and are shocked. Yuri had spoken. They are at a loss, unsure of how to confront him about it, especially knowing that he had deliberately hidden it from them. Before heading home, Koi stops by the supermarket to buy some groceries. As she leaves, she unexpectedly runs into Yuna, the classmate she had met earlier in school, who starts a conversation with her. Yuna tells Koi that their classmates believe she and Yuri are in a relationship because they saw them arriving at school together that morning. Koi denies it and explains that Yuri was the one following her. She then asks Yuna why she assumed such a thing, to which Yuna responds that Yuri doesn't speak. Koi is surprised by her reaction and informs her that she already knows about Yuri's condition, explaining what she has learned about him and his brothers. As they talk, Koi expresses her surprise that there are only 3 brothers, but Yuna corrects her sibling, a sister named Laura. Shocked, Koi assumes Laura must be in another class, which is why she hasn't met her. However, Yuna stuns her by revealing that Laura deliberately ended her life in the river last year. At that moment, it becomes clear that the girl Yuri keeps seeing in his dreams is his sister Laura, reliving the moment she took her own life. The trauma of losing her is what caused Yuri to stop speaking for an entire year. Meanwhile, Doyen furiously accuses him of making their parents worry unnecessarily since the day he lost his voice. Rain tries to intervene and calm Doyen down, but Doyen is too angry, demanding to know why Yuri was the only one who stopped talking when they all grieved Laura's death the same way. Yuri finally confesses that he has felt guilty ever since Laura died. He believes he is the reason it happened. On the day of the incident, Laura his music rehearsal. While he was at rehearsal, he received the devastating news of what had happened. When he arrived at the scene, he saw his parents and brothers completely shattered, and he was overwhelmed with guilt. He became convinced that if he had just stayed and spoken to her, he might have been able to save her. Ever since that day, he stopped speaking, punishing himself for what he saw as his failure. As the brothers sit together, emotionally overwhelmed, Koi unexpectedly arrives and hands them some snacks she bought from the supermarket. Then, without saying much, she leaves. They are surprised by her sudden shift in behavior toward them. Later that night, their mother grows increasingly anxious as the brothers still haven't returned home. It's raining heavily, and she fears something may have happened to them. Their father tries to calm her down, reassuring her that there must be a reason for their delay. Meanwhile, the three brothers are lying together on the ground in a garden, trying to make sense of why Laura did what she did. However, they find no answers. She never left behind a letter or any indication of what pushed her to that point. Yuri admits that in his dreams, he keeps seeing Laura, hoping she will tell him why, but she never does, leaving him in endless confusion. Eventually, they return home together. Their mother, relieved but upset, begins scolding them for worrying her. However, she is completely taken aback when Yuri suddenly says, "I'm hungry," and asks her for food. Overcome with emotion, she immediately hugs him, crying as she realizes he is finally speaking again. Their father, too, is deeply moved by the moment. Meanwhile, at home, Koi reflects on all of Yuri's actions toward her. After what she learned from Yuna, she starts to piece things together and realizes that Yuri is trying to save her the same way he wished he could have saved his sister. Understanding this, she feels deeply affected. That night, Yuri tells his brothers what happened on the rooftop, how he found Koi about to take her own life. The three of them decide from that moment on to keep an eye on her, to protect her from others and, most importantly, from herself. They silently vow to always watch over her. At school the next day, a girl named Jing, who sits behind Koi in class, speaks to the teacher and requests to change seats because she doesn't want to sit near Koi. Embarrassed in front of her classmates, Koi lowers her head. Without hesitation, Yuri stands up, swaps his seat with Jing, and sits behind Koi instead. This only fuels the rumors among their classmates, with many speculating that there is something going on between them. During the break, Koi sits with Yuri and picks up the headphones he always wears. To her surprise, she realizes they aren't even turned on. Yuri explains that he wears them all the time so that no one will try to talk to him. She smiles knowingly, revealing that she does the same thing to avoid conversations with people. Koi thanks Yuri for standing up for her that morning. As the days go by, Yuri and his brothers continue to look after her, always staying close, helping her in small ways, even when she doesn't ask for it. Over time, Koi begins to warm up to them and slowly starts letting them in. One day, their mother visits Koi and invites her over for dinner at their house so she can spend time with her sons in a family setting. However, Koi declines, explaining that she's used to eating alone. Their mother hands Koi her meal at the door and thanks her sincerely for becoming friends with her sons. She tells Koi that for the first time in a very long while, she finally feels at ease about them. The next day at school, Doyen trains with his coach for an upcoming competition. However, he struggles with a recurring issue that always slows him down halfway through, and his coach repeatedly scolds him, making him feel frustrated. Meanwhile, Jing asks Rain if she can borrow the first chapter of his notes to study since the exam is approaching, and she won't have time to finish it herself. Rain agrees, and when they return to class, he hands her his notebook. However, she is shocked to find that the page containing the first chapter has been torn out. She immediately assumes that Koi did it out of jealousy and stands up in the middle of class to expose her. Jing then loudly announces that Koi was forced to transfer to their school because someone from her previous school lost their life because of her. Koi is completely stunned and unable to deny it. She runs out of the classroom, overwhelmed. Yuri follows her and tells her that no matter what, he will keep asking her why she wants to end her life until she finally lets him help, even if it annoys her. He promises to listen whenever she's ready to talk and assures her that he will never abandon her. On her way home, Koi notices Rain standing alone, holding his pencil case. She initially assumes he is about to smoke, but when she looks inside, she finds the torn page from his notebook, the same one Jing accused her of ripping out. She asks him why he did it, and Rain opens up about what happened the previous year on the day of the incident. That day, Laura had looked visibly upset about something at school. Rain had planned to ask her what was wrong once they got home. However, on their way out, Jing had called him over, asking for his study notes. Wanting to help, he accompanied her back to the classroom, leaving Laura to go home alone. By the time he returned to find her, she had already disappeared. Not long after, the tragedy happened. Because of this, he refuses to help Jing anymore. Koi empathizes with his pain and tells him that she too carries unbearable sorrow that she never shares with anyone. She notes that they are alike in that way, and she tries to comfort him. Later that night, as Koi prepares to have dinner, the doorbell rings. When she opens it, she is horrified to find a group of dangerous-looking men standing outside. They immediately push their way in, threatening her. They make it clear that no matter how far she runs or where she moves, she will never escape them. It becomes evident that they know her from her past. They physically assault her, leaving her wounded. However, as they attack, Rain and his brothers hear her screams from their apartment. Without hesitation, they rush to her door and trigger the police alarm on their phones. One of the men panics and opens the door, only for the three brothers to burst in and fight off the attackers. A brutal brawl breaks out, but the gang members are ruthless, outnumbering and overpowering the brothers. Koi, feeling responsible for dragging them into her problems, watches in despair, unable to do anything. Suddenly, their mother arrives with a stun gun. The sight of her terrifies the intruders, and they flee immediately. She then takes Koi and her sons home, prepares a warm meal for them, and sits Koi down at the dinner table. For the first time, Koi experiences the warmth of a real family, feeling genuine happiness in their presence. After dinner, the boys take her to their room and show her their belongings. She notices a music notebook and realizes it belongs to Yuri. However, he tells her that he has completely given up on music and no longer has any attachment to it. His trauma runs deep. Because of what happened to Laura, he blames his music rehearsal for preventing him from being there for her. Later that night, their mother calls Koi and takes her to Laura's old room, where she has prepared a bed for her. She asks Koi to stay over for the night. Koi initially refuses, but their mother gently explains that she wants her to stay for her own peace of mind so that she won't have to worry all night. Moved by her kindness, Koi agrees. That night, their mother stays with Koi in Laura's room, sharing memories of her lost daughter with deep sadness. Touched by her vulnerability, Koi finally opens up about her own past. She reveals that her mother recently got remarried and left with her new husband for a 6-month honeymoon in Europe, leaving Koi alone. She never told anyone she was living by herself except for her closest friend, believing he would keep her secret safe. However, she was betrayed. He told his other friends, who were heavy drinkers and partygoers, about her place. They turned her home into their nightly hangout spot and constantly pressured her to let them stay. It turns out that the same group of guys who attacked her earlier were the ones from that time. One night, while they were at her place, her so-called friend arrived, but he was driving under the influence. He crashed his car right in front of her house and lost his life. Because of that, she was blamed for his death and was forced to transfer schools. Hearing this, Rain's mother is deeply shaken by the injustice and suffering Koi has endured. She embraces her tightly as Koi, unable to hold back her emotions any longer, finally breaks down, screaming and crying from the unbearable pain she has been suppressing for so long. Rain and his brothers, hearing her cries from the other room, are overwhelmed with sadness for her. The next morning, they all have breakfast together, sharing a peaceful and joyful moment as a family. Koi, for the first time, feels a sense of safety and belonging. Their father, seeing how comfortable she is around them, even jokes that their family has now grown by one more member. Later, Koi sits with their mother in the garden and admits that she used to envy her sons for always having each other. She confesses that she was born into solitude and has spent her entire life alone. However, she then tells their mother that now she has finally gained something that other people would envy her for. When their mother asks what that is, Koi responds with a smile, saying, "I now have a loving mother who cares for me." Overcome with emotion, their mother sees Laura in Koi at that moment. She silently believes that fate brought Koi into their lives so she could see her daughter in her once more and give her the love she couldn't give Laura. Their mother begins to reclaim her life, resuming all the things she had stopped doing since Laura's passing. As her mental state improves, she starts finding joy in everyday activities again. The next day, Koi stands with Yuri and tries to convince him to return to playing music and singing. However, Yuri firmly tells her that he has closed the door on music forever and will never go back. That night, the four of them sit together and Doyon surprises them by announcing that he has withdrawn from his running training and will not be competing in the big race he had been preparing for. He confesses that every time he runs, he imagines Laura sitting in front of him, cheering him on. The memory distracts him, causing him to stop halfway through the race, unable to continue. He is deeply saddened that he can only see her in his mind and nowhere else. Seeing them all trapped in grief, Koi decides to break them out of their sorrow. She takes them to the rooftop of their building, standing near the edge. She confesses that when she first came to that rooftop, she had planned to end her life. But now, thanks to Yuri, she has chosen to live and keep going. She also reveals that her stepfather was never kind to her. He despised her and was against the idea of her living with them from the start. But now, none of that matters because God has given her something better, them. Over time, she grows even closer to the brothers, especially Yuri, and slowly she starts to develop feelings for him. One day, Koi stumbles upon Laura's old notebook. Inside, she finds a letter Laura wrote to Yuri on the very day she lost her life. Shocked, Koi rushes to Yuri's house to show him the letter. It turns out that Laura had bought him a ticket to a concert by his favorite band. She wrote that she had been saving up for years, setting aside money little by little just to buy it for him. She also asked him not to tell Rain and Doyon about it, as she didn't want them to feel like she was favoring him over them or make them feel as if they hadn't done enough for him. Along with the ticket, she had written a song, one she had composed just for him. In her message, she encouraged him to keep pursuing his passion for music, supporting him wholeheartedly. As Yuri reads her words and sees the concert ticket, he breaks down in tears, overwhelmed with grief. He finally understands that when Laura had called out to him before he left for his rehearsal, she had only wanted to give him the ticket and the letter, but he had ignored her and walked away. The next day, Rain visits the burger restaurant and meets Koi's father. He tells him everything that has happened. Later, when Koi leaves school, she is stunned to find her father waiting for her outside. He walks with her, wanting to be a part of her life again. From a distance, Rain watches them together, feeling happy that he was able to reunite them. Doyon returns to running competitions, encouraged by Koi and his brothers, and Yuri finally finds his way back to music after reading Laura's words of encouragement. Thanks to Koi, each of them starts moving forward with their lives and chasing their dreams once again. A while later, it's the birthday of Doyon, Rain, and Yuri. Their mother visits a bakery to buy sweets for their celebration. At the same time, Koi's mother is in the same bakery. She casually mentions that it is also her daughter's birthday today. However, Rain's mother doesn't realize that Koi is her daughter. Later, Koi's mother visits her at home, bringing her sweets. She speaks to Koi in a gentle and warm manner, but Koi remains distant. She has already made up her mind about how she wants to live her life, and she chooses to spend it with the people who make her feel safe and truly cared for. That evening, Koi goes to Rain and Yuri's house, where they all celebrate their birthday together. Surrounded by warmth, love, and laughter, Koi makes a life-changing decision. She chooses to stay with them forever. For the first time, she has found something she never had in her own family, a true home. Subscribe for more videos like this one, like the video, and don't forget to turn on the notifications to get the updates.